You won't believe what happened when wildlife photographer Emma Collins was documenting wild Mustang herds in Wyoming's Red Desert and witnessed the most heartbreaking scene of her entire career. A beautiful Palomino Mustang mare named Starlight was standing over her newborn foal, who had been unconscious for over 18 hours. What this desperate mother did to try to save her baby's life defied everything experts thought they knew about animal behavior. This tale will remind you that even in moments of unimaginable despair, light can come from the most unexpected places. It's a story of resilience, ingenuity, and the profound impact of compassion. Through Starlight's unwavering dedication and Spirit's mysterious journey, we are reminded that no challenge is insurmountable when met with courage and hope. If this story resonates with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more inspiring tales of courage, connection, and the wonders of the natural world. Stay tuned as we dive deeper into Starlight and Spirit's unforgettable journey, a testament to the power of love and survival against all odds. Have you ever witnessed or experienced a moment of redemption that changed everything? Let us know in the comments below. The tiny foal, born during a brutal spring blizzard, was fighting for his life while his mother performed behaviors that seemed impossible for a wild horse. She was literally trying every method she could think of to wake him up, including actions that left veterinarians speechless. But when traditional methods failed, Starlight made a decision that shocked everyone watching. She began a journey across the dangerous Wyoming wilderness that would test the limits of maternal love and prove that some bonds are stronger than survival instincts. What happened during their desperate race against time involved encounters with predators, treacherous terrain, and ultimately a choice that would determine whether this precious foal lived or died. The ending of their story will restore your faith in the power of a mother's love and show you that miracles really do happen when we refuse to give up hope. Get ready for the most emotional wild horse story you've ever heard. The spring blizzard hit Wyoming's Red Desert with a ferocity that caught everyone off guard, including the wild Mustang herd that had been peacefully grazing near Adobe Town just hours earlier. Emma Collins, a 34-year-old wildlife photographer from Colorado, had been documenting the herd's seasonal migration for National Geographic when a storm struck, forcing her to take shelter in her specially equipped truck while winds howled at over 60 miles per hour. Through the swirling snow and ice, Emma could barely make out the shapes of the Mustangs as they huddled together for warmth, their backs turned to the wind in the classic survival position that had kept their species alive for centuries. But one horse stood apart from the group, and Emma's professional instincts told her that something significant was happening. Starlight was a magnificent 9-year-old Palomino mare with a golden coat and flowing white mane, serving as the leader for this particular band of wild horses. Emma had been photographing her for 3 days and had noticed signs that Starlight was very close to foaling. The restlessness, the separation from the herd, and the telltale physical changes that indicated birth was imminent. Not in this storm, Emma whispered to herself as she watched through her telephoto lens. Please, not now. But nature doesn't wait for perfect conditions. As the blizzard raged, Starlight began the process of giving birth to her foal alone, except for the stallion who stood nearby, providing what protection he could from the driving wind and snow. The birth was difficult and prolonged, complicated by the extreme cold and the stress of the storm. Emma documented everything she could see through the camera equipment in her truck, her heart aching as she watched the mare struggle through labor in conditions that would challenge even the hardiest of animals. When the foal finally arrived, a beautiful Palomino colt with markings identical to his mother's, Emma felt a moment of relief and joy. But that joy was short-lived. The newborn foal, whom Emma would later name Spirit, was not responding normally. While most Mustang foals stand and nurse within an hour of birth, Spirit remained motionless on the frozen ground, his small body showing no signs of the vigor that should characterize a healthy newborn. Starlight immediately began the typical maternal behaviors, licking her foal clean, nickering softly to encourage him to respond, gently nudging him with her nose. But Spirit remained unconscious, his breathing shallow and his body temperature dropping dangerously in the sub-zero conditions. As hours passed, Emma watched through her camera as Starlight's behavior became increasingly desperate. The mare would stand over her foal, providing what warmth she could with her body, then move away to call to him with urgent whinnying sounds. She would return to nuzzle him, then try to lift him with her nose, attempting to stimulate a response. "Come on, baby," Emma found herself whispering. "Go for your mama." But Spirit remained unconscious as the storm continued to rage around them. The other members of the herd had moved to better shelter in a nearby canyon, but Starlight refused to leave her foal. She stood guard over him throughout the night, her golden coat becoming white with accumulated snow as she shielded him from the worst of the weather. By dawn, when the storm finally began to subside, Emma realized she was documenting something unprecedented. Spirit had been unconscious for over 18 hours, far longer than any newborn could typically survive without nursing or normal response to stimuli. But Starlight hadn't given up hope, and what she would do next would challenge everything Emma thought she knew about wild horse behavior and the power of maternal instinct. As the sun rose over the snow-covered Wyoming landscape, Emma could see the full scope of the situation Starlight was facing. Spirit lay motionless in a small depression that his mother had somehow managed to keep relatively clear of snow. But the foal's condition appeared to be deteriorating rather than improving. Starlight's behavior throughout the morning was unlike anything Emma had ever documented in 12 years of wildlife photography. The mare seemed to understand that conventional maternal instincts weren't working, and she began experimenting with increasingly creative and desperate methods to rouse her unconscious foal. First, Starlight tried vocal stimulation. She would position her muzzle close to Spirit's ear and make a series of sounds Emma had never heard from a horse before. Low rumbling vocalizations mixed with high-pitched whinnying that seemed designed to penetrate whatever was keeping her foal unconscious. When that failed to produce a response, Starlight tried physical stimulation. Using her hooves with incredible precision, she would gently tap Spirit's legs and body, never hard enough to cause injury, but with enough pressure to try to trigger a reflexive response. She would alternate between gentle nudging with her nose and more insistent prodding with her hooves. "She's trying everything she can think of," Emma documented in her field notes. This level of problem-solving behavior in a wild horse is extraordinary. Most remarkably, Starlight began attempting to physically manipulate Spirit's position as if she understood that his circulation or breathing might improve with movement. She would carefully grip his neck or leg with her teeth and try to shift his body, always with the gentle precision that horses use when grooming each other. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, a veterinarian and equine behavior specialist whom Emma contacted via satellite phone, was amazed by the descriptions of Starlight's behavior. "What you're describing sounds like instinctive physical therapy," Dr. Walsh explained. "It's as if she understands that her foal needs stimulation to revive his nervous system." But despite Starlight's increasingly sophisticated efforts, Spirit remained unresponsive. His breathing was steady but shallow, and he showed no signs of the normal reflexes that should be present in a healthy foal. Emma estimated that he had now been unconscious for over 24 hours. As the day progressed, Emma noticed that Starlight was making a series of decisions that suggested she was formulating a plan. Instead of remaining stationary with her foal, the mare began making short trips away from Spirit, always returning within minutes, but clearly investigating something in the distance. During one of these reconnaissance missions, Starlight climbed to a nearby ridge and stood silhouetted against the sky, her head raised and nostrils flaring as she tested the air. Emma realized the mare was searching for something. But what? The answer came when Starlight returned to Spirit and began exhibiting behavior that left Emma speechless. The mare carefully positioned herself beside her unconscious foal and began making preparations that suggested she was planning to move him. "She can't be thinking of carrying him," Emma said aloud. But as she watched through her telephoto lens, that appeared to be exactly what Starlight was planning. Using a combination of gentle gripping with her teeth and careful maneuvering with her hooves, Starlight managed to lift Spirit's small body and drape him across her back just behind her shoulders. The positioning was precarious and clearly difficult to maintain, but Starlight managed to secure her foal in a way that would allow her to travel. With Spirit's unconscious form balanced on her back, Starlight began moving purposefully across the landscape, leaving the area where he had been born and heading toward something that only she seemed to understand could help her baby. Emma grabbed her equipment and began following at a respectful distance, documenting what might be the most extraordinary example of maternal problem-solving ever captured in the wild. Starlight's journey with Spirit balanced on her back was a testament to both her physical strength and her unwavering determination to save her foal. Emma followed at a distance, using her telephoto lens to document the mare's careful navigation across the treacherous post-blizzard terrain while maintaining the delicate balance required to keep her unconscious baby secure. The route Starlight chose revealed an intelligence that amazed Emma and Dr. Walsh, who was now consulting via satellite phone throughout the journey. Rather than taking the most direct path across the landscape, Starlight selected routes that minimized steep inclines and avoided areas where the snow was too deep or the footing too unstable. "She's thinking three-dimensionally," Dr. Walsh observed when Emma described the mare's route selection. "She's not just considering where she wants to go, but how to get there safely while carrying a fragile load." Every few hundred yards, Starlight would stop and carefully lower Spirit to the ground, checking his condition and attempting once again to wake him with gentle nuzzling and soft vocalizations. When these efforts failed, she would go through the careful process of repositioning him on her back and continue her mysterious journey. After 2 hours of travel, Emma began to understand Starlight's destination. In the distance, she could see a small ranch house with smoke rising from the chimney, human habitation in this remote area of Wyoming. Starlight was taking her unconscious foal to the one place where she might find the kind of help that could save his life. Seeking human intervention, Emma realized with amazement. She somehow understands that people might be able to help her baby in ways she can't. The approach to human territory was dangerous for a wild Mustang. Starlight would be vulnerable to capture, and historically, wild horses had every reason to fear human contact. But maternal desperation had overridden millions of years of survival instincts. As they approached the ranch, Starlight's behavior became even more extraordinary. Instead of approaching recklessly, she stopped about 200 yards from the buildings and began calling, not with the wild, alarm sounds horses typically make when distressed, but with deliberate, rhythmic vocalizations that seemed designed to attract attention without conveying threat. The ranch belonged to Tom and Sarah Henderson, a couple in their 50s who had been raising horses in Wyoming for over 30 years. When they heard the unusual calling, Tom stepped onto his porch and immediately saw something that left him stunned. "Sarah," he called to his wife, "you need to see this. It's a wild mare out here, and I think she's got a foal with her." Sarah Henderson was a licensed veterinary technician who had assisted with countless difficult births and medical emergencies involving horses. When she saw Starlight standing in the distance with Spirit's motionless form draped across her back, she immediately understood the gravity of the situation. "That foal is in serious trouble, Tom," Sarah told Tom. "And that mare, she brought him here for help." The Hendersons faced a delicate situation. Starlight was clearly seeking assistance, but approaching a protective wild mare with her vulnerable foal required extreme caution. One wrong move could send her fleeing back into the wilderness, possibly injuring Spirit in the process. Sarah made the decision to approach slowly and calmly, carrying a soft blanket and speaking in the soothing tones she used with nervous horses. "Easy, girl," she said as she walked carefully toward Starlight. "I can see you need help with your baby." Starlight's response to Sarah's approach would determine whether Spirit had any chance of survival and whether this unprecedented act of trust between a wild horse and humans would result in the miracle his mother had been fighting to create. The moment when Sarah Henderson approached Starlight represented a convergence of desperation, trust, and hope that none of the participants could have imagined just days earlier. Starlight, who had never had positive contact with humans, was about to place her foal's life in the hands of strangers because her own efforts had failed to save him. Sarah moved with the slow, deliberate confidence of someone who had spent decades reading horse body language and understanding equine psychology. She carried a soft horse blanket and spoke in continuous, soothing tones that conveyed her intention to help rather than threaten. "I know you're scared, beautiful girl," Sarah said as she approached to within 30 feet of Starlight, "but I can see that your baby needs help, and I want to try to save him." Starlight's response was extraordinary. Instead of fleeing or showing aggression, the mare actually took several steps towards Sarah, as if she understood that this human represented her foal's best chance for survival. When Sarah stopped and knelt down, making herself less threatening, Starlight approached to within 10 feet and gently lowered Spirit to the ground. Tom Henderson called Dr. Rebecca Martinez, the local large animal veterinarian, who agreed to make an emergency house call despite the remote location and difficult weather conditions. While they waited for the vet's arrival, Sarah was able to conduct a preliminary assessment of Spirit's condition. The foal was deeply unconscious but breathing steadily. His body temperature was dangerously low, and he showed no response to light or sound stimulation. Most concerning was his complete lack of the reflexes that should be present in a healthy newborn. Possible birth trauma or oxygen deprivation, Sarah explained to Tom while Starlight watched anxiously from a few feet away. The difficult birth in the storm might have caused neurological damage. Starlight's behavior during this examination was remarkable. She allowed Sarah to touch and move her foal, occasionally stepping closer to nuzzle Spirit gently, but never interfering with the human's assessment. It was as if she understood that Sarah was trying to help. When Dr. Martinez arrived an hour later, she found a scene that challenged her professional experience. A wild Mustang mare was standing calmly while humans examined her unconscious foal, displaying a level of trust that seemed impossible given the circumstances. "I've never seen anything like this," Dr. Martinez told the Hendersons as she began her examination. "This mare has somehow overcome every instinct that should make her flee from human contact." Dr. Martinez's diagnosis was grave, but not hopeless. Spirit appeared to have suffered oxygen deprivation during birth, possibly due to the extended labor in extreme conditions. The resulting brain swelling had caused the prolonged unconsciousness. But with proper treatment, there was a chance for recovery. "We need to get him warm, start 4 fluids, and administer medication to reduce brain swelling," Dr. Martinez explained. "But I need to warn you, even with treatment, there's no guarantee he'll survive. And if he does, he might have permanent neurological damage." The treatment plan required moving Spirit into the Hendersons' barn, where they could provide controlled temperature and continuous monitoring. The question was whether Starlight would allow her foal to be taken into human structures or whether her trust had limits. Sarah approached Starlight with the blanket, intending to wrap Spirit for the move to the barn. The mare watched carefully as Sarah gently lifted her foal and did something that brought tears to everyone's eyes. She followed Sarah toward the barn, staying close enough to maintain contact with her baby, but trusting these humans to help him in ways she couldn't. The next 48 hours would determine whether Starlight's extraordinary act of faith would be rewarded with her foal's recovery, or whether she had entrusted her baby to humans only to lose him anyway. The Hendersons' barn became an intensive care unit as Dr. Martinez worked to save Spirit's life, while Starlight maintained a vigil unlike anything the veterinarian had ever witnessed. The wild mare positioned herself just outside Spirit's stall, never more than a few feet from her unconscious foal, watching every procedure with intelligent eyes that seemed to understand the gravity of the situation. Dr. Martinez established a 4-line in Spirit's leg and began administering fluids and medications designed to reduce brain swelling and support his vital functions. The foal remained deeply unconscious, but his breathing became more regular and his body temperature gradually returned to normal levels. "The next 24 hours are critical," Dr. Martinez explained to the Hendersons while Starlight listened from her position at the stall door. "If the medication can reduce the swelling in his brain, he might regain consciousness. But every hour that passes without improvement decreases his chances. Starlight's behavior during this period was extraordinary. She seemed to understand that the humans were helping her Foal, and she cooperated with every aspect of his care. When Dr. Martinez needed to examine Spirit, Starlight would step aside, but remain close enough to monitor the proceedings. When the Foal needed to be repositioned, the mare would often help by gently nuzzling him into better positions. Emma Collins had been documenting the entire situation, and her photographs and video footage were already attracting international attention from wildlife biologists and animal behavior experts. The images of a wild Mustang mare trusting humans to save her Foal challenged conventional understanding of horse psychology and maternal behavior. Dr. Jay Morrison, an equine behavior specialist at Colorado State University, drove to Wyoming to observe Starlight's behavior firsthand. What we're seeing here is cognitive flexibility of the highest order, Dr. Morrison explained. Starlight has not only recognized that her traditional maternal behaviors weren't working, but she's identified humans as a potential solution and overcome her natural fear to seek help. On the second night, Spirit showed his first signs of improvement. His eyelids began to flutter occasionally, and he showed weak, reflexive responses when Dr. Martinez tested his reactions. Starlight seemed to sense these changes immediately, becoming more animated and vocal as she encouraged her foal's recovery. "Come on, baby," Sarah Henderson whispered as she monitored Spirit throughout the night. "Your mama didn't bring you all this way for you to give up now." The breakthrough came at dawn on the third day. Spirit's eyes opened for the first time since his birth, and he made weak attempts to lift his head. Starlight's response was immediate and emotional. She nickered softly to her foal and gently touched his face with her muzzle, as if to say, "I'm here, and you're going to be okay." Over the next few hours, Spirit's recovery accelerated dramatically. He began responding to sounds and movement, and most importantly, he showed the rooting instinct that indicated his desire to nurse. Dr. Martinez was cautiously optimistic that the foal might make a full recovery. But the success of the medical intervention created a new dilemma that no one had anticipated. Spirit was a wild Mustang foal who belonged in the wilderness with his mother. But he had received life-saving treatment that created complex legal and ethical questions about his future. The Bureau of Land Management, which oversees wild horse populations, had been contacted about the situation, and their representatives were en route to assess the circumstances and determine what should happen to both Starlight and Spirit. The question now was whether this extraordinary story of maternal love and human compassion would have the happy ending that everyone was hoping for, or whether bureaucratic regulations would separate a mother from the foal she had fought so hard to save. The arrival of Bureau of Land Management officials 3 days after Spirit's recovery created a tense situation that highlighted the complex relationship between wild horse conservation and human intervention. BLM agent Carol Thompson and wildlife veterinarian Dr. Michael Ross had come to assess the situation and determine the legal status of both Starlight and Spirit. Technically, these are wild horses on public land, and any intervention without proper permits could be considered capture, Agent Thompson explained to the assembled group. However, the circumstances here are unprecedented. Emma Collins had been documenting every aspect of the story, and her photographs and video footage had already generated international media attention. Wildlife conservation groups, horse advocacy organizations, and animal lovers around the world were following the story and advocating for Starlight and Spirit to remain together. Dr. Ross examined Spirit and confirmed that the foal had made a remarkable recovery. From a medical standpoint, this foal appears to be developing normally, he reported. His neurological functions are intact, and he's nursing well. The intervention clearly saved his life. The question was what to do next. Standard BLM protocol would typically require the horses to be processed through their adoption program. But the unique circumstances of Spirit's rescue and Starlight's unprecedented trust in humans created a situation that didn't fit normal procedures. Dr. Morrison from Colorado State University had prepared a detailed behavioral analysis of Starlight's actions, arguing that the mare's problem-solving abilities and capacity for trust represented valuable traits that should be preserved in the wild Mustang gene pool rather than removed from the population. Starlight has demonstrated cognitive abilities that we're only beginning to understand, Dr. Morrison argued. Her offspring could carry these intelligence traits forward in the wild population, which benefits the overall genetic health of the herd. Tom and Sarah Henderson had grown deeply attached to both horses during the week they had spent caring for Spirit, but they understood that the Mustangs belonged in the wild. We never wanted to keep them, Sarah explained. We just wanted to help save the foal's life and reunite him with his mother. The solution that emerged was as unprecedented as Starlight's original journey for help. The BLM agreed to classify the intervention as emergency wildlife assistance rather than capture, allowing both horses to be returned to their herd without processing through the adoption system. However, there was one condition. Both Starlight and Spirit would be fitted with GPS tracking collars to monitor their long-term health and behavior. This would allow researchers to study the effects of early human intervention on wild horse development and behavior. The day of their release was emotional for everyone involved. Spirit, now strong and healthy, stayed close to his mother as they prepared to leave the Henderson Ranch. Starlight approached each of the humans who had helped save her foal, gently touching Sarah, Dr. Martinez, and even Emma with her muzzle in what could only be interpreted as gratitude. "She's saying thank you," Sarah said through tears as Starlight nuzzled her hand one final time. The return of the wild was swift and natural. Starlight and Spirit rejoined their herd within hours of their release, and the other Mustangs accepted them back without apparent difficulty. Emma's final photographs showed Spirit running freely across the Wyoming landscape with his mother. Both horses displaying the wild grace and beauty that had inspired humans to protect them. 6 months later, GPS data showed that both horses were thriving in the wild. Spirit had grown into a strong, healthy young stallion who showed no lasting effect from his difficult birth. Starlight had produced another foal the following spring, raising both colts with the same protective intelligence that had saved Spirit's life. Their story became a symbol of the power of maternal love and the importance of protecting wild spaces where such extraordinary relationships could flourish, reminding the world that sometimes the greatest miracles happen when we simply choose to help rather than interfere. If Starlight and Spirit's incredible story of maternal love, trust, and survival touched your heart, remember that their tale proves that some bonds are powerful enough to overcome any obstacle, even the fear between wild animals and humans. Their story shows us that love knows no boundaries and that sometimes the greatest gift we can give is simply being willing to help when help is desperately needed. Consider supporting wild horse conservation efforts and the organizations that work to protect these magnificent animals in their natural habitat. Share this amazing story to remind others that the natural world is filled with intelligence, emotion, and wisdom that deserves our respect and protection. If this tale touched your heart, please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories of hope, resilience, and the incredible bonds between humans and animals. Share this story with someone who needs a reminder that even in the fiercest storms, there is always a chance for renewal. And let us know in the comments, what lesson did you take away from Starlight and Spirit's journey? Thank you for joining us today. And remember, sometimes the smallest sparks ignite the brightest flames.